realized that the chair I'm sitting in, as they say, I have big feet to fill in. That was an excellent first session, and I think the moderator did a job par excellence. So thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And we'll start this off very quickly. Would also want it to be a lot more participative. We'll try and keep this interesting too. So without much of an ado, let's just do a very, very quick introduction. And we'll do it a little differently. So what I would like all the panelists to do, and we'll start from that corner, is to not just tell me your name and where you work, but also add an adjective which describes you. And it needs to be with the same alphabet that your first name is. All right? So I can start.
Can I change the alphabet?
Oh, no. Let's just keep it fun. And I've realized, particularly in a large group like this, one of the purposes is to learn, but also remember names. So this is something which I use, to try and the moment you add an adjective, you kind of remember the person. So I am amazing ANUJA, and I work as a CHRO in a company called Ninjacart, which is a B2B agri-tech. So yes, I am in one of the startup economies of this of Bangalore. So something similar. Sure. And that is giving you all time to think of the adjective, by the way.
Okay. I was when you said that, I thought of an adjective, but that's not from the same alphabet as my name. So I would say I'm pleasing PREET. I work for a company called SABIC. The full form is Saudi Arabia Basic Industries Corporation. It's a chemical organization, and that's about me.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll take it. I don't know if I'll be able to add an adjective.
For the audio.
Yeah. All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Manas. I head the HR for a company called TTK Prestige Limited. We are not no way connected with the real estate. I am from the consumer durable side of TTK Group. So, that's about me.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am magical MAJID for the sake of adding an adjective, right? So what I do is all pretty normal, pretty humane. Been in the industry for about 21 plus years. And I work for a company called as CMS IT Services. I head the people function and the culture function in the organization. This organization has been in the industry for about 47 years. In many ways, we have made the dream of digital India become true, right? So any PSU that you can think of, if at all they are using technology, and this organization has been there in the backdrop. Yeah, that's about it. And there is a lot that we can discuss later. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see what we have, the magical, pleasing, and the mysterious people bring in here. We'd like to make this participative. I do have a set of questions which goes to around 3-4 pages. But I believe that the audience has a lot of students from ABBS, Sorenia, and IBA. So in specific, let's live up to the institute names, and we'll also look at questions from you. Panelists, my only request is to keep it very interesting, incisive, sharp, and insightful. I know that's performance pressure, and with that, let's start off. So we have a very, very interesting topic here. So when you think of the future of work and you look at the employee life cycle, it is from cradle to grave or from hire to retire. So we are right now taking the first part of it, which is examining at really looking at, hiring strategies and how would that fit in the future. So we will examine some aspects of the present and look primarily into the future. So with that, the first question, and whenever you think of future of work, you think of technology, right? So if I could ask you, Preet, that when you think of future of work, what kind of recruitment strategies or recruitment technologies that you think are really going to be the mover shaker ones? And if you could also explain an example, that'll be awesome.
Sure. So the way I'll answer this question is in two ways. One, I'll talk about what are the technologies which are already getting used, and I'm sure it'll enhance over a period of time. And then I'll also share some of the examples from my own organization, right? What do we do in recruitment to be at par with the industry? So the first one, which all of us know, is the introduction of AI, right? AI is changing the game, the way recruitment happens. I still remember when I was an intern during my education, we used to do the paper recruitments, right? Find out whose profile is this, is anybody missing or not? And sometimes the paper used to go missing and it was like, oh my God, I'm now going to be thrown out of my internship. Now things have changed, right? Everything is digital. AI has changed the way things happen for the recruiter as well as for the candidate, right? For the recruiter, starting from shaping the job descriptions, getting profiles, getting the right profiles, video interviews, having the candidate experience lined up, so many things, right? Skill-based interviews. You get the candidate which rightly fits your job description. And on the other side, for the candidates as well, where it is helping them enhance their profiles, find the jobs which fits them, right? Because we have people who are doing recruitment, you would realize that when you post a job description, 80% of the profiles are not relevant, right? That's where AI comes and helps you to say, okay, forget these 80, focus on this 20%. So that's one thing which is like a game changer, I would say, in terms of technology. The other things is also the use of social media, which has changed the way recruitment happens, right? We no more just depend on consultants or newspapers. We have LinkedIn. We have so many other platforms available for us to get the right talent. Gig workforce is another one, right? Because organizations are often being challenged of not adding too much headcount, but you have to get work done. How would you do that, right? So then that's where gig workforce comes in, where you don't get under the burden of headcount, but you still get your work done by the best in the industry. So these are some of the technologies, developments that has happened. It is, like I said, it's already there. It's just going to get better with time as we move forward. For SABIC, I would say we are still not yet there. We, by the nature of the organization that we deal in, we are trying to cope up with so many technologies which are available in the market. But we do use AI, right? We use SAP. And in that, we do use AI where it helps us to redefine our job descriptions, make it gender neutral. Right? We use the tools which makes, and I never even realized that job descriptions can be biased, right? So there is a verbiage, specific verbiages that you use in your job descriptions, which can be biased. So there are tools which helps you to make it neutral. We use tools which helps us to find the best match. Again, like I said, 100 applications, which is those 10 which I need. So the tools helps us to do that. Candidate experience. One biggest concern that applicants have is, I applied, never heard back from the company. What are you doing about my profile? How can you sit on my profile for months together? So this is where AI comes in and gives a real-time information back to the candidate that, hey, here how you moving, or you are not relevant, or whatever it is. So these are some of the things, ANUJA, that I think are changing the game for us as human resources and the company.
Thank you so much. What I took away from you was around AI, around social media, around gig economy, around candidate experience, and how technology is making sure we remove biases. So on the second topic, or on the last piece, there's always something which I personally struggle with, which is the entire piece of the ethics of using artificial intelligence. And particularly when we are picking or making decisions on hiring, on careers. So would one of you want to comment around technology, ethics, and recruitment?
Yeah. Go ahead. So ANUJA, I think in anything we do, ethics plays an important role anyway. When it comes to AI, obviously, since it's a new thing, obviously there are a lot of things which are still not evolved or not structured. But having said that, firstly, I think your recruitment policy as an organization need to have those inbuilt mechanisms which protects the ethics and the values that you carry as an organization. I'm not talking about in general. So as long as those ethics and those values are inbuilt into your recruitment policy or hiring policy, I think half of the job is over. The remaining part is in terms of enforcing those things while you use these technology platforms to hire people. So I think, the only way to enforce this, I believe, is one is to be vigilant. You need to have those inbuilt mechanisms which checks and balances, which measures all those. But I think its major role plays, one important aspect is in terms of how you educate your managers, how you educate your hiring team in terms of ensuring these ethics are inbuilt into the hiring strategy or hiring process. So those are the elements which is important. For example, let's say, let me pick an example. There are a lot of gender diversity here. So your recruitment policy talks about promoting gender diversity. But your tool or the platform that you use, which has been misused for some other reason and not promoting or not in sync with gender diversity. So I think as an organization, you should do what you preach or what is your policy states. So if you are genuinely promoting gender diversity in your workforce, therefore I think the entire recruitment process, which you take help of tools like AI, should promote that rather than should discourage that. So those are the elements which I'm just picking one example. There are many more. So if your policy isn't coherent with the approach in your recruitment process, and I think that's where the whole thing falls in place.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to put you on the spot and actually add to it. So I'm not too sure if all of you have read this famous case study, which was of a large MNC organization who used AI in the initial interviewing piece. And after using AI for almost 6 months, and they looked at the results, they had what I would call a eureka moment, because they realized that when you talk about artificial intelligence, it learns whatever is the past data. And for this organization, the past data clearly showed a gender bias. So what happened when they implemented AI for almost 6-7 months is it's the same information which that particular tool learned and was spewing out CVs or shortlisting it for interviews, only those which followed past trends. So my question to you, and this is hypothetical, if you were the CHRO of this organization and this event occurred, what would you do next?
Okay. By my role, I play that role even today. And for this particular problem statement, Anuja, it is very important for all of us to remember one fundamental fact, right? Which is about the technology coming into existence, right? Through human intelligence, okay? It is about the right balance and the amalgamation of human intelligence with artificial intelligence. While the platform or the tool is learning on its own basis the past data, right? And in many ways, it would also pick up things depending upon how things are panning out through the process, right? Because that's how the machine learning process works. But something which is very important is to be futuristic and visionary in your approach, predicting some of these problems, looking at, again, the base or the fundamental behind the construct of some of these applications or tools, right? And that's when you come up with fixes, because implementing something which is half-baked will obviously yield these kind of results, right? So had I been in that particular situation, I wouldn't have allowed that to happen, looking at how the construct of the technology is, right? Look at any organization for that matter, and if you talk about problem statements occurring, majority of the problems occur because of gaps in terms of communication, either between people, amongst people, or between people and technology, right? And data again plays a very, very important role. The research have been very clear and vocal about the gap existing when it comes to mad use of technology and artificial intelligence without the right set of checks and balances, right? The other day I was speaking with certain set of people in a similar kind of conference, and we spoke about how people have gone ahead and implemented technology-based solutions without understanding how it can lead to certain things which can turn into bigger fiascos. And there was a platform, there was a tool which was about customer service, and it was in the United States. During the user access testing process, if the user talks about the problem statement and says, "Did you understand what I said?" The system says, "Yes, I feel you." Right? So if at all you go ahead and implement that, right, it can lead to offenses, right? You will have people who will get offended due to such statements because you can't really use that in a professional environment, right? And that is where the human intelligence comes into the picture. So it is all about the right set of balance.
Yeah, Anuja, if I may just add on to that, and I have spoken about it in the past as well, that technology and human intervention has to go hand in hand. We cannot leave anything completely on technology. Like you said, it learns. And who does it learn from? Or who says that this is right or this is wrong? That's the human intelligence which comes into the play. So it's very important that technology and human resources works as hand in glove. And you have to keep checking. Yeah? The case study that you are referring to, we've left it on technology for 6 months to do whatever it wants, right? So it's important to have the checks and balances. So for example, we have certain tools starting from recruitment to even employee engagement. But end of the day, those are tools. They'll give me data. What do I do with that data is my own human intelligence, my team's human intelligence, which would say, okay, this is the data and this is what I need to do. And the conference that we met at, which was the employee engagement tools, AI tools that we are using, which kind of keeps a checks on employees' well-being, their mood, how are you feeling? But again, it just throws data at you. What are you going to do? If the employee says, no, I'm not feeling good today, tool is not going to say, wait, I'll come and meet you, right? There has to be somebody from the HR team who has to say, oh, this guy is not doing well. There is something wrong. Let me go and have a personal conversation. So that's why it is important for all of us, especially to the young people who are still in college and would experience this in real time when you join the corporates, that tools will give you information for you to make informed decisions, right? Tools will not replace you. So ensure that it works together in collaboration to give you the best outputs. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. So I think there is very good insights around human touch versus technology. Also very, very important that information is not power. Use of information is power in an organization. And my favorite piece, which is what I call the 3P model, which is practice. So go ahead and implement a technology, pause because you need to look at the data, ponder over it, and then go back to practice. So the 3P model, I think, you all kind of spoke about it. But now let's just maybe go on the same track of technology in the future of work. We've got tools who assess skills, and you spoke about social media. So they can go ahead and look at keywords in your resume. They would do a match. They're tools which also are capable of scrapping your social profiles if there's permission given, and to see if there's an attitude match from a hiring perspective. And I am biased here when I say that the tools that we have today are good for skill assessment, but successful people are always hired for attitude and skill follows. So your views on that. How does technology assess attitude in the future of work?
Okay. No, all right. This time I'll take the turn. I'll steal my own airtime.
Stage is all yours. We have 15 minutes to go. So
Yeah,
no
sure.
problems.
Thank you. So again, coming back to the previous point that I made, right, which is about gaps. Okay. And in this situation as well, what would make the problem statement become very prominent would again be the gaps. And you spoke about the 3P model, right? A solution to the problem statement is about a 3C model. And in any given organization, right, I've worked with so many of them. What I have seen is that when you are trying to kind of get a job done, either through technology or through human beings, right, building a connection becomes very important. So that's the first C. Okay, how do you connect dots? If at all you are using a data-driven approach, you will get scattered data. You will get data which is not organized. You will get data which is not at all in order when it comes to any kind of sequence for that matter, right? Certain things might happen in the beginning, but you will get to understand that particular data point only towards the end. So how do you get the data organized is one very important aspect, right? And then you build your data lakes, then you build stories basis the data, and through those stories you will have insights coming out, and that is what will help you to take informed decisions, right? Businesses today become modern, businesses today become successful and thriving just because of the information that comes out through data, right? Classic example of an airline organization. When the organization was running through a crisis, they approached a data and analytics company, right? I have worked for a data and analytics company, and that is how I know the story. So the story was about maximizing the revenue and also increasing the margins, right? Which is based on what's your spend. The airlines company did not know what to do. And this organization went on to read the data and understood the behavior of the customers, right? There was a certain segment of people who wanted to select one particular type of seat depending upon the positioning of the seat inside the aircraft, right? And they found that there were so many people similar to that. And the majority of them were frequent flyers. So today, if you see that there is a price tag attached to the seat selection, it is all because of the data which was used to carve out that particular information, right? So that is how you connect dots either between people or through data and technology when it comes to using the approach. Second is, how do you communicate? That's the second C, right? Communication again becomes very, very important. Today, in the modern world, right, we use the term as AI or data and analytics, but that is nothing but statistics, right? It's all about maths. It's all about calculations. It's all about numbers. And when you understand things, how the articulation happens in terms of passing on that message becomes very important, because you will have to again bring in another very cliched term, which is hyper-personalization into the picture, because that is actually required, right? Unless you come up with a custom-made approach looking at the kind of audience that you're dealing with, you will never be successful in terms of communicating things to them, right? And why would you do that? You would do that because you would expect an outcome. You would expect a result, which is all about conversion, right? So then the approach that you are supposed to take is about connecting, communicating, and then finally you convert, and that is how the process ends.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's, again, information and the use of information is power, and the way you do analytics and use that to ensure that the human touch remains. So I have, at this moment, I'd just like to take a short pause and see if there are any questions from the audience.
Hi, I'm Ninjacart from BOPARAI. My question is, actually you talked about that AI tools are there which can select shortlist the CVs, etc. But now the candidates are also getting smarter.
Yeah.
So they are using the tools where they can have to create CVs according to the job posting, according to the keywords, and we as an recruiter or as an HR might be recruiting somebody who is smarter but may not be the right fit. So what is the solution for that? And primarily I wanted to ask, in the space of while we have shortlisted somebody and we are interviewing them, can we somehow, improve our interviewing skills or something new happening in this area wherein we can find in whether the person will be a culturally or a value fit for us as well?
You are spot on, and it is happening, right? Where AI is, like I said, it's not just helping the recruiters, but it is also helping the candidates. And we will get such profiles, right? Where it is maybe they are highlighting something that they have not done. So when you are interviewing as a recruiter, that's where the skill assessment and the value assessment plays a very important role, right? And I'll give you just a small example, which doesn't happen very often. What I have seen is that when you set up interviews as a recruiter, so you have a panel, right? You pick up a panel which will assess different aspects of the candidate. The panel doesn't even speak to each other before entering the recruitment phase, right? And it's important that there is a small round of discussion which happens saying that, oh, this looks beautiful on paper, but let's assess this individual on these parameters. And as HR, we may assess them on the values piece, right? That's where the reality will be out on the table for us to see. Whatever you have mentioned on the profile, is it really true in reality or not? Because like I said, tool will give you information. How are you going to convert that into what works for you as an organization is the human intelligence. So that's where the panel who's going to do the recruitment or the interview for those set of candidates need to look at the profiles, need to do a bit of a rehearsal, right? Identify, for your company, what are the skills which are needed. Your value system, right? It's very easy for you to define what questions I'm going to ask this candidate. Would you fit into my profile or not? Or what are you saying? Is it really true or not? So that'll be one thing that I can add on to. There are many more, but considering the time that we have, that's what I would share.
So very briefly, I'll just take 60 seconds, right? I have a very different view to the same problem statement. Any prep talk that you do will lead to biasness, right? And it is very important not to get into any kind of discussion or evaluation process with any kind of preconceived notion. What you should be calibrated about is only the job description or the hiring profile, not the profile of the candidate. You go ahead and very neutrally look at the candidate, evaluate the candidate, and come back with your notes. And later on, you come together and then finally take a decision. If at all, you have to take a decision as a panel. So different school of thoughts, but this is another aspect that you can consider or keep in mind.
Just to add on, if I may, I think it's from my experience what I have sort of that lot of what's your recruiter or the manager who is recruiting a person, what does he want? Many managers look at immediate candidates who can provide you an immediate solution. So very few managers who look at on a mid-term or a long-term horizon in terms of hiring the right culture fit, in terms of hiring the right people with right skill set and right attitude. So the moment your recruitment strategy or recruitment game plan is completely short-term, then it beats the purpose. The moment so as HR professionals, I think where we come in is we need to really educate or really need to coach these line managers in terms of building a long-term horizon. That's where I think a lot of companies nowadays focus in terms of skill building of their managers, in terms of how to conduct competency-based interviews, or how do you really, during an interview process of an hour, how do you focus on the attitude part rather than only the skill set part, which many managers don't do, let me tell you. I've been part of a lot of interview and selection panels. Many managers do falter in terms of getting the right fit. So they look at who is going to, suppose if you're hiring a sales guy, this is look at, does he have a market knowledge of that X particular market? Does he know the products, etc.? He hardly assesses the person in terms of whether he has got the right leadership qualities, right value set, which is going to give you a long-term stability. So I think those are the elements. So upskilling your managers, coaching line managers to focus on the attitude part, Anuja, is going to help, in my view, regardless of the AI and non-AI. I think it's focus need to build on in terms of how you efficiently upskill your managers for skill assessment and attitude assessment.
And also, if I may add, right, with HR playing a very important role in this whole process, it is also about feedback to the AI tool. Team, the managers, everybody together to identify those areas which can then go and feed back to the AI tool so that the next time you have lesser number of such profiles coming into your bucket.
Thanks so much. I hope that answers your question. And just to summarize out there are different ways of doing it. And yes, there are people who would game the system. So when you come up with a security software, there's somebody sitting on the other side who's coming up with ways of hacking it. And the same happens in recruitment. But when companies hire, they hire not just for the skills, but they also hire for the attitude and the values, which is where the recruitment panel comes in. And there are tools which are growing up there to teach us how to hire for attitude. That was my question there. But that's something which we will be continuing to see on the future of work. So I've got around 4-5 more minutes. And what I'm going to do is two things. I'll ask one last question here, and then I'm going to do a rapid fire. So I would like one of you to volunteer in for a rapid fire. And no, this wasn't a part of the script. So very interestingly, when companies hire, and I can speak about Ninjacart, we hire for two kinds of positions. One, what we call internally as bandwidth positions, where skills are more important, right? So the skills which you bring in and you execute to the task is important. The other is what we call leverage positions, which is where the person or the incumbent who comes in and the way he contributes, the how he contributes, is what would take Ninjacart far. So for example, a CHRO is a leverage position because your recruitment, your policies, your compliance will be taken care of. Those are bandwidth. But how do you handle talent is leverage. So my question to the panel here is, again, back to our topic of future of work. Are job descriptions redundant? Because they describe a description of a job within boundaries. And instead, in the future of work, do we look at the impact that a position will cause? Your views.
I think all of us are living in a world, right, where the approach has to be minimalistic, right? It is very important. Knowing that the resources are scarce in nature. This is the fundamental thought process behind economics as a subject, right? And the entire world revolves around economics. It is also very important for all of us to remember a very prominent thought process, right, which can actually become a part of the entire execution plan, is that it is all about getting your expectations meet the reality, right? And that is where long stories or laundry list of things in terms of job descriptions would not really help you. What is important for you is to set the right set of context and the expectations with your audience. And the audience here are two major parties. One is your people whom you are going to recruit, your prospective talent, and your line managers or the hiring managers. This is how any sales function operates, right? And attracting talent or the future of work cannot actually be existing without sales acumen coming into the play. People generally forget that recruitment or talent acquisition is a two-way sales process. You sell the organization and the role and the job description to your resources. At the same time, you sell the same set of resources to your line managers or the hiring managers, right? So it's even more complex in nature. And that is where setting expectations become very important. You might get out of that practice where you have long JDs, but it is very important for you to tell people that, hey, today this is the role, right? However, looking at the speed at which things are changing, because it is all about velocity today, right? And with velocity, you have to stay very, very nimble and agile, which is again about flexibility. There is no situation that anybody can guarantee about stability, because the world is going to continue to be very, very dynamic in nature, right? So it's all about finding a sweet spot where you have a dynamic stability existing in any organization for that matter. And that is where context setting and the expectation setting on both the sides become very important. That's my take to your question.
I have a different point of view. And again, that's because of the industry that we operate in, right? So SABIC is a chemical organization, and we have various departments. Could it be research? Could it be sales? Could be manufacturing? If I take an example of research, right? So if we hire a PhD, for him or her, for the experiment to see the life would take years or even decades. So attrition is not my problem. So when people join SABIC, they join to stay with SABIC for long, right? Because they have to see how their work is impacting at the end. How is it making a difference in the world? And it is important that we have job descriptions, because if we don't tell people what is expected when they come and join SABIC, it could be like a lost world, right? So I would need PhDs with the relevant degree, because if they don't know the basics, they will not be able to run the experiments in the lab. I need salespeople with the right exposure, because if they don't know, how will they know what product means what in the market? I would need manufacturing employees to know a bit about chemicals and plastics, because if they don't know, they would not understand safety aspects, what they need to do. So I think, ANUJA, I have a little bit different perspective, and that's again due to the nature of industry that I come from. It may work for us, it may not work for others, and vice versa. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Nothing better than having a panel with conflicting views. So for those of you there who want to get into HR or are in HR, job descriptions are not going away anytime soon, though the impact that a candidate brings to the table is slowly creeping in. I know our time's up, and I'm just going to do the last rapid fire. Which one of you would want to go?
Someone has a question.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Actually, we were discussing about how AI is helping hiring team to get right candidates. So you were discussing about the hiring team expecting from technology.
Can I make a recommendation? Because I really would like things to come back onto track. So if it's okay for you, what we're going to do is do the last rapid fire and then ask the organizers if we can take your question. And if not, then when we are done, we are going to walk up to you and answer your question for you.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah? Is that okay? Because we do want to make sure our organizers don't throw us out of the stage.
This thing says time's up.
Okay.
So, would you be my rapid fire person? All right. So now the persona, because you've got very, very powerful people in HR on the stage today. So I would like you to answer this question, assuming that the person who's asking the question is a candidate. So when I come in for getting hired in an organization, what is it that you're looking for? I'll give you 2 options for each question, and you need to pick one. No discussions around it. We can do that later. Are you ready? All right, awesome. Question, hard work or intellect?
Intellect.
Career or money?
Career.
What would you ask the candidates to do in terms of skill building? Go wide or go deep?
Go deep.
When you talk about biases which occur in organizations today, which one have you seen? Is it gender-based bias, or is it recency effect when you're interviewing candidates?
The halo effect, the recency effect.
What kind of a person are you? People first or business first?
People-centric, not people-oriented, and business obviously supersedes, right? So the organization comes before me, my manager, my team, or anybody else. What is right for the organization is more important. Who's right is not important.
So that's the person saying both and not one. And since this is business world, when you're interviewing a candidate, what do you expect him to speak about? News or views? In other words, information or judgment?
Judgment which is based on information.
Thank you. And with that, that's our piece. Thank you so much. Wonderful being there. And we'll probably walk up there and answer your questions, sir. Yeah?
Thank you, Anuja. Thanks, everyone.